All right, we should be live. I'm going to read the report and put my light on. Let's see. Make sure I'm live. I do have the report thanks to Chris Wolford. Maybe a little clunky to read it live, but make sure I send the link out. Nine pages, so more than we expected. Rubio saying we still don't know if these are a threat, so obviously China and Russia are not leading the way, I would think. I just linked to it, so I'll link it in the comments too. It doesn't always load up though. You guys can hear me okay? I'm linked to it in the chat. Thank you to Chris Wolford for getting me a link that worked. I think it was just overwhelmed. So I have not read it yet, but I'm going to read it right now. And then once I read it, you guys can, I'll send out the link if you want to ask questions or comments or whatever you want to do. All right, so 9 pages is going to take a while. This preliminary report is provided by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, ODNI, in response to the provision in Senate Report 16233 accompanying the Intelligence Authorization Act. I'm going to skip all this stuff. It's just background. The report provides an overview for policymakers of the challenges associated with characterizing the potential threat posed by UAP, while also providing a means to develop relevant processes, policies, technologies, and training for the U.S. military and other U.S. government personnel if and when they encounter UAP, so as to enhance the intelligence community's ability to understand the threat. The Director, UAP Task Force, is the accountable official for ensuring the timely collection of consolidation of data of UAP. The data set described in this report is currently limited primarily to U.S. government reporting of incidents occurring from November 2004, Tic-Tac, to March 2021. Data continues to be collected and analyzed. ONI prepared the report for the Congressional Intelligence and Armed Services Committee's UAP Task Force, and the ODNI National Intelligence Manager for Aviation drafted this report. That doesn't sound right, but and it goes through all the different agencies where they had input: USD, DAI, FBI, NRO, NGA, NSA, Air Force, Army, Navy, DARPA, a lot of 3-letter and 4-letter agencies. Here we go. Assumptions. Various forms of sensors that register UAP generally operate correctly and capture enough real data. In other words, this is not about glitches, Seth Shostak. Capture enough real data to allow initial assessments, but some UAP may be attributable to sensor anomalies. Okay, now Seth Shostak is back in the equation. Come on. All right. Why even bring that up? If it's making it into this report, I would think you would have ruled out glitches at this point. Executive summary. We are all executives. So yeah, I saw one comment about it being released after the markets closed, but I don't think this is going to be strong enough to affect the markets. Okay. The limited amount of high quality reporting on unidentified aerial phenomena, UAP, hampers our ability to draw firm conclusions about the nature or intent of UAP. Yeah, for these people, maybe, but for the people who have analyzed data for 70 years, that's bullshit. I think they have a grasp of what's going on. The UAP task force considered a range of information on UAP described in the U.S. military and intelligence community reporting, but because the reporting lacked sufficient specificity, ultimately recognized that a unique, tailored reporting process was required to provide sufficient data for analysis of UAP events. As a result, the UAP task force concentrated its review on reports that occurred between 2004 and 2021. The majority of which are a result of this new tailored process to better capture UAP events through formalized reporting. In other words, allowing pilots to speak about their excitings without fear of retribution and getting grounded. Most of the UAP reported probably do represent physical objects, given that a majority of UAP were registered across multiple sensors, to include radar, infrared, electro-optical, weapon seekers, and visual observation. In a limited number of incidents, UAP reportedly appeared to exhibit unusual flight characteristics. These observations could be the result of sensor errors, spoofing, or observer misperception and require additional rigorous analysis. Really? So when Rubio was told by Eric Davis that the ONI and UAP task force believe some of these are off-world, you're saying that, oh, these are possibly sensor errors. It's like, at this point, they should be able to only include sightings and encounters that have ruled out all of that stuff. So not a good start for me. There are probably multiple types of UAP requiring different explanations. Agree with that. Based on the range of appearances and behaviors described in the available reporting. No problem with that. Our analysis of the data supports the construct that if and when individual UAP incidents are resolved, they'll fall into one of 5 potentially explanatory categories. 1, airborne clutter. 2, natural atmospheric phenomena. 3, USG or U.S. industry development programs. See, they have not ruled out 100% that it's U.S. tech. Foreign adversary systems, and a catch-all other bin, which we are all interested in that bin. And if people are commenting, I can't see right now because I have the page up. So as long as you can hear me, that is good. Yeah, so far it's not good, but like I said, my expectations were so low waking up this morning, so just take it as a whole, what's been going on, and we'll take this as a start. UAP clearly posed the safety of flight and may pose a challenge to the United States national security. Safety concerns primarily center on aviators contending with an increasingly cluttered air domain. UAP would also represent a national security challenge if they are foreign adversary collection platforms, Tyler Rogaway, or provide evidence a potential adversary has developed either a breakthrough or disruptive technology, which I do not think has happened. The first part where they're soaking up our data with drones, okay, maybe some of it is that. But like I said, if I said in some of my Twitter audio, if what Congress is seeing is making them leave saying, that ain't ours, then that's the stuff we want to focus on. Consistent consolidation of reports from across the federal government standardized reporting, increased collection and analysis, and a streamlined process for screening all such reports against a broad range of relevant USG data will allow for a more sophisticated analysis of UAP that is likely to deepen our understanding. So, as Lou said, this is the first report. More to come. This really seems like it's going to be a nothing burger, but who knows what the classified version will see, and hopefully that, as Rubio said, that will leak out like everything leaks in Washington. Some of these steps are resource intensive and would require additional investment. That's good. We need more money. We need money dedicated to a permanent UAP task. Don't want to say task force, more like a UAP department. All right. Limited data. I'll take a look at comments, but yeah, it's good. More to come. So we have that, but we need more. But let me keep reading. The most important comment will be from Lou and Christopher Mellon. Limited data and inconsistency in reporting are key challenges to evaluating UAP. No standardized reporting mechanism existed until the Navy established one in 2019. I want to make sure I send the link out to Twitter. If you guys could send the link out, that would help too. I'm not disappointed because, like I said, something I heard a few months ago that there would not be a public version of this report. That was what I received information, and that was amended probably like a few weeks ago, saying that information is not accurate. It was not accurate. It was the people who I heard it from, very good sources, but one of the sources got it wrong, or they heard it wrong from wherever they heard it. Anyway, so I had my expectations low from that point. So I'm not disappointed with this because of those lowered expectations. Let me just throw the link again. And pin it, and good. Let me keep reading. Hopefully, if some people cannot read if you cannot read the report, this is a good thing. I get to read it. So, limited data and inconsistency in reporting are key challenges to evaluating UAP. No standardized reporting mechanism existed until the Navy established one in March 2019. The Air Force is mentioned, subsequently adopted that mechanism of November 2020. That's news to me, but it remains limited to U.S. government reporting. I'm not really sure what that means. If the government is only the one, that's weird. The UAP task force regularly heard anecdotally during its research and other observations that occurred, but which were never captured in. It seems like they're leaving commas out. The UAP task force regularly heard anecdotally during its research about other observations that occurred, but which were never captured in formal or informal reporting by those observers. So it's anecdotes, basically. Just, oh yeah, I saw this, but they weren't able to capture it, I guess, on whatever sensors they were using. After carefully considering this information, the UAP task force focused on reports that involved UAP. I'm sorry, guys, I gotta adjust here. Focused on reports that involved UAP largely witnessed firsthand by military aviators and that were collected from systems we considered to be reliable. These reports describe incidents that occurred between 2004 and 2021, with the majority coming in the last 2 years, as the new reporting mechanism became better known to the military aviation community. We were able to identify one reported UAP with high confidence. What? We were able to identify one reported UAP with high confidence? One? In that case, we identified the object, as a large deflating balloon. And it just happened to look like Batman. No, I'm just kidding. The others remain unexplained, so only one was explained. So that's good if you're looking for true unknowns. 144 reports originated from United States government sources. Okay, now I know what the Air Force part was. There may have been. Oh, I'll get back to that. 144 reports originated from U.S. government sources. Of these, 80 reports involved. Of these, 80 reports involved observation with multiple sensors. So of the 144, 80 involved multiple sensors, which you want. The more sensors, the better. Most reports described UAP as objects that interrupted pre-planning training or other military activity. So right there, I would think that's a threat to their training, An interruption slash nuisance, if threat is too much of a, and I'm not using threat as in something dire, but, highly sensitive areas where you're doing training. All right. UAP collection challenges. Sociocultural stigmas and sensor limitations remain obstacles to collecting data on UAP. In other words, people don't want to talk about it. And I guess our sensors are not that great, according to that, when Lou talks about low observability. Although some technical challenges, such as how to appropriately filter out radar clutter to ensure safety of flight for military and civilian aircraft, are long-standing in the aviation community, while others are unique to the UAP problem set. Narratives from aviators in the operational community and analysts from the military and intelligence community describe disparagement associated with observing UAP, reporting it, or attempting to discuss it with colleagues. So yeah, they don't want to talk about it because people are making fun of them after they have these sightings and come back and talk about it. So they're hesitant to even bring it up. Although the effects of these stigmas have lessened as senior members of the scientific, policy, military, and intelligence communities engage on the topic seriously in public, reputational risk may keep many observers silent, complicating scientific pursuit of the topic. The sensors mounted on U.S. military platforms are typically designed to fulfill specific missions. As a result, those sensors are not generally suited for identifying UAP. Sensor vantage points and the numbers of sensors concurrently observing an object play substantial roles in distinguishing UAP from known objects and determining whether a UAP demonstrates breakthrough aerospace capabilities. Optical sensors have the benefit of providing some insight into the relative size, shape, and structure. Radio frequency sensors provide more accurate velocity and range information. So, give me 1 second. Just going to send out the link to somebody. Check in on comments, what you guys are thinking so far. I mean, it's a little wordy, but I need to read through it. Where can we see the report? I linked to it already in the comments. If you scroll up, I also tweeted it. Chris Walford had the link. I should just go through this. So far, it's very not technical, but it's a little boring talking about how they collected. And if you hear my dog barking, he's here. Although there was wide variability in the reports and the data set, is currently too limited to allow for detailed trend or pattern analysis. Well, listen to Lou, he said there were patterns. There was some clustering of UAP observations regarding shape, size, and particularly propulsion. Interesting. UAP sightings also tended to cluster around U.S. training and testing grounds, but we assess that this may result from a collection bias. In other words, yeah, we're picking up these objects in training grounds because that's where we have our sensors. They may be everywhere else, but we don't have that kind of collection ability in the middle of nowhere where they may be, So that makes sense. We assess this may result from a collection bias as a result of focused attention, greater numbers of latest generation sensors operating in those areas, unit expectations, and guidance to report anomalies. So, yeah. As Richard Dolan said in a recent video, they may be everywhere over our houses at night. We don't have sensors operating everywhere, although, we have more video cameras than ever. Not pointing directly up in the sky, though. A handful of UAP appear to demonstrate advanced technology. That's the ones we want. In 18 incidents described in 21 reports, observers reported unusual UAP movement patterns or flight characteristics. Some UAP appear to remain stationary in winds aloft, move against the wind, maneuver abruptly, instantaneous acceleration, or move at considerable speed without discernible means of propulsion. In a small number of cases, military aircraft systems processed radio frequency energy associated with UAP sightings. So they're picking up RF from these objects, radio frequency energy. Trying to communicate? Is that something related to the propulsion? And it's only a small number of cases. The UAP Task Force, and we're on page 5 of 9. The UAP Task Force holds a small amount of data that appear to show UAP demonstrating acceleration or a degree of signature management. I'm not really sure what signature management is. If it's changing, if it has some sort of electronic output, is it changing that? For whatever reason, additional rigorous analysis are necessary by multiple teams or groups of technical experts. In other words, we need to fund a permanent group to determine the nature and validity of these data. We are conducting further analysis to determine if breakthrough technologies were demonstrated. Yeah, well, I've heard from a very, very good source, but breakthrough technologies were 100% demonstrated. That's why the ONI and UAP Task Force believe these are off-world vehicles. So, yeah, definitely a bit of a whitewash here. But we're still on page 5. The UAP probably lack a single explanation. Yeah, probably. Don't know that, though. I'm still open to it all being one, as far as the other bin being one phenomenon, or multiple groups, multiple intelligences. But here they're talking maybe we have some Russia and China, and maybe something from the other bin. The UAP documented in this limited data set demonstrate an array of aerial behaviors, reinforcing the possibility there are multiple types of UAP requiring different explanations. Our analysis of the data supports the construct that if and when individual UAP incidents are resolved, they will fall into one of 5 potential explanatory categories: airborne clutter, natural atmospheric phenomena. Remember, this is our analysis. So airborne clutter is 1, natural atmospheric phenomena is 2, United States government or industry developmental programs, in other words, our tech, foreign adversary systems, and a catch-all, like they said, other bin. So in other words, yeah, they're basically saying their analysis shows that there will be some that will fall into the other bin. So it's a very slight thing, but obviously not ruling out the others. With the exception of the one instance where we determined with high confidence that the reported UAP was airborne clutter, specifically a deflating balloon, we currently lack sufficient information in our data set to attribute incidents to specific explanations. Meanwhile, we know who's inside the saucers, we know who's inside the triangles, and I know people don't believe that, but I trust my source 100% on that. And it's not the person who originally shared it in that group. Airborne clutter. These objects include birds, balloons, recreational unmanned aerial vehicles, UAV, or airborne debris like plastic bags that muddle a scene and affect an operator's ability to identify true targets such as enemy aircraft. Natural atmospheric phenomena. Natural atmospheric phenomena includes ice crystals. By the way, that's what they're on the Nimitz. You talk to Gary Voorhees and some of the folks like Kevin Day, and their commanding officer tried to explain the Tic Tac events as ice crystals, and they just laughed at him. So natural atmospheric phenomena includes ice crystals, moisture, and thermal fluctuations that may register on some infrared and radar systems. The next one is USG, or Industry Developmental Programs. In other words, our technology. Some UAP observations could be attributable to developments and classified programs by United States entities. See, that's why I tried to point out in several audio things that I did that the sources in the New York Times did not rule out that some of this was our technology. And I'm not even saying that any of these reports include our technology. I know they're saying that, but in my opinion, if we have some of this technology, it may not be captured. It may be smart enough to not be captured on, Navy and Air Force sensors, but they have not ruled out that some of this is our tech. And I know people don't like that, and I don't, if that's true, I think it would be such a small amount that was ours or human tech. And then they finish. They go, we were unable to confirm, however, that these systems accounted for any of the UAP reports we collected. So they couldn't prove that any of these were our tech. So the door is open a tiny bit to some of this being our tech. But like I said, if we have some of this tech, it may not be seen by our guys. Maybe the people who run that tech, if it's it's an extremely hidden, unacknowledged special access program, they're smart enough not to be caught on our sensors. But no proof of that. Just comments from people like Will Miller and other people. And then they go, foreign adversary systems. Some UAP may be technologies deployed by China, Russia, another nation, or a non-governmental entity. Non-governmental entity. What is that? I mean, just some civilians? I guess it could be like a terrorist group that has, Rogueway has spoken about some of the drones. So then they go other, which we care about. Although most of the UAP described in our data set probably remain unidentified due to limited data or challenges to collection, processing, or analysis, we may require additional scientific knowledge to successfully collect on, analyze, and characterize some of them. We would group such objects in this category pending scientific advances that allowed us to better understand them. The UAP task force intends to focus additional analysis on the small number of cases where a UAP appeared to display unusual flight characteristics or signature management. UAP threaten flight safety. UAP threaten flight safety and possibly national security. UAP pose a hazard, and we're on page 6 now of 9. UAP pose a hazard to safety of flight and could pose a broader danger if some instances represent sophisticated collection against U.S. military activities by a foreign government or demonstrate a breakthrough aerospace technology by a potential adversary. Yeah, I think the first possibility, which Tyler Rogueway has written about a lot, is possible with some of these objects, but I don't think Russia or China has had any breakthroughs like this. If we're talking about, the ones that are taking off instantaneously, five observable territory. Ongoing airspace concerns. Just go check in on the chat just to make sure you guys are still here. And can I still hear me? Still hear me okay? And I will add in callers as soon as I'm done reading. All right, I'll assume that you can still hear me. Hopefully. Ongoing airspace concerns. When aviators encounter safety hazards, and I realize this is boring reading, but I want to get it on the record, I'll read it, especially people who are still having problem accessing the site. When aviators encounter safety hazards, they are required to report these concerns. Depending on the location, volume, and behavior of hazards during incursions on ranges, pilots may cease their tests and or training to land their aircraft, which has a deterrent effect on reporting. The UAP task force has 11 reports of documented instances in which pilots reported near misses with a UAP. That alone, you would think they would make this a priority and shouldn't have taken this long to even to get to this point. Potential national security challenges. How much you want to make a bet they don't discuss slide 9. I'm being sarcastic. We currently lack data to indicate any UAP are part of a foreign collection program. This is a pretty big deal right here. We currently lack data to indicate any UAP are part of a foreign collection program or indicative of a major technological advancement by a potential adversary. In other words, we don't have any data that to indicate that this is Russia or China or whoever as far as foreign adversary. We continue to monitor for evidence of such programs given the counterintelligence challenge they would pose, particularly as some UAP have been detected near military facilities or by aircraft carrying the United States government's most advanced sensor systems. So in other words, Tyler Rogoway's idea that this is Russia and China soaking up our data, they found no data to indicate that. So that's important. Explaining UAP will require analytic, collection, and resource investments. Standardize the reporting, consolidate the data, and deepen the analysis. In line with the provisions of Senate Report blah 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 accompanying the for FY 2021, the UAP Task Force long-term goal is to widen the scope of its work to include additional UAP events documented by a broader swath of United States government personnel and technical systems in its analysis. As the data set increases, the UAP Task Force ability to employ data analytics to detect trends will also improve. The initial focus will be to employ artificial intelligence, machine learning algorithms to cluster and recognize similarities and patterns in features of the data points. And that's the Scout. I think that's what DeLong is talking about with the Scout program, using AI to just focus on the important encounters and sightings. As the data, and I'm not saying they're using that same thing, but that's something connected to TTSA, which is not dead, by the way. Or maybe on their final legs, but I think their entertainment may save them financially. As the database accumulates information from known aerial objects such as weather balloons, high altitude or superpressure balloons, and wildlife, Mick West seagulls, machine learning can add efficiency by pre-assessing UAP reports to see if those records match similar events already in the database. The UAP Task Force has begun to develop interagency analytical and processing workflows to ensure both collection and analysis will be well informed and coordinated. The majority, and we're on page 7 of 9, the majority of UAP data is from United States Navy reporting, but efforts are underway to standardize incident reporting across United States military services, very good thing, and other government agencies to ensure all relevant data is captured. Of course, that should have been going on now, and it probably was. We just don't know about that data. With respect to particular incidents and any United States activities that might be relevant. The UAP Task Force is currently working to acquire additional reporting, including from the United States Air Force, and has begun receiving data from the FAA, Federal Aviation Administration. This is all good, but this has been going on for the last 70 years, so. And they have data already stored in warehouses, according to Jeremy Corbell and Dr. Eric Davis. So we need to get that stuff. Although United States Air Force data collection has been limited historically by the U.S. Air Force. Let me start again. Although United States Air Force data collection has been limited historically, the U.S. Air Force began a 6-month pilot program. This is brand new. The United States Air Force began a 6-month pilot program in November 2020 to collect in the most likely areas to encounter UAP and is evaluating how to normalize future collection, reporting, and analysis across the entire Air Force. That's, the Air Force has been so quiet. I know behind the scenes pilots have been sharing some of their experiences, but that's new information that they have a pilot program, and let's see what they come up with, because they're everywhere. It's not just out over the ocean. Would love to see what kind of data they've collected so far. That started November of 2020. The FAA captures data related to UAP during the normal courses of managing air traffic operations. The FAA generally ingests this data when pilots and other airspace users report unusual or unexpected events to the FAA's air traffic organization. And Tyler Rogoway has done fantastic work on that, getting some of the audio from some of those UFO reports from, I think the last one was United Airlines. In addition, the FAA continuously monitors its systems for anomalies, generating additional information that may be of use to the UAP task force. The more data, the better. The FAA is able to isolate data of interest to the UAP task force and make it available. The FAA has a robust and effective outreach program that can help the UAP task force reach members of the aviation community to highlight the importance of reporting UAP. So, still page 7, but we're coming to the end of page 7. Ignore the background noise because that's fine. The UAP task force, I need to put my dog on camera like Linda Moulton Howe. And then I won't share that story. I don't think you guys know that story, but or maybe you do. When Linda Moulton Howe talked about how she got her cat in a portal, he showed up after he died, and she's on the bed explaining. It's very odd in a hotel room with Grant Cameron. I saw that when I was in Laughlin. I may have seen it originally when it was first posted. But anyway, I'm off track. The UAP task force is looking for novel ways to increase collection of UAP cluster areas when United States forces are not present, or a way to baseline standard UAP activity and mitigate the collection bias in the data set. One proposal is to use advanced algorithms to search historical data captured and stored by radars. Here we go. That's what we need. Historical data. That's where we have a ton of data. And use algorithms to search that historical data. Captured and stored by radars. That's a big deal, and that could be done. Get those programs going. Show us what they collected. Of course, if it's in a special access program, that's another story. The UAP task force also plans to update its current interagency UAP collection strategy in order to bring to bear relevant collection platforms and methods from the DoD and the intelligence community. Increase investment in research and development. Finally, make it permanent. The UAP task force has indicated that additional funding, yes, for research and development could further the future study of the topics laid out in this report. Such investments should be guided by a UAP collection strategy, UAP research and development technical roadmap, and a UAP program plan. And we are in, I think that's it. We're in page 8, and it's Appendix A, definition of terms. UAP we know, UAP event, UAP incident, UAP report. I mean, Appendix B goes through the report, how it was commissioned and what they asked for, which we've seen before: geospatial intelligence, signals intelligence, human intelligence. Yeah, I don't need to read that. It just tells. So that's it. It is a nothing burger for the most part. I mean, but like I said, I'm not disappointed. But the Air Force information is new, and I'm going to send out the link so you guys can join in and express your amazement at this. Disappointing to most report. So there's the link, which I'll put out on YouTube. I mean, I'll put it out on Twitter too. I know that was boring, but I wanted to get that done. And I was reading it as you guys learned about it. Twitter. Give me a second. And or this appointment with the report. Really curious to see what Lou has to say about this. I would think he would comment pretty soon if he hasn't already. If anybody sees that, let me know and call in and let me know, because I'm not on Twitter except for this. Just give me a second, and That is there. All right, let me add some of the. Hopefully, there's Chris. I will add Chris and Omega. Add. Add. You guys are both there. Thanks for coming on, Omega and Chris.
No problem.
Oh, let me put my audio up. Not going to hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear
me? What do you think? I can hear you. What do you think about the Nothing Burger?
It wasn't that bad.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't that bad. I mean, like I said, I'm not disappointed because I had my expectations, and I'm not one to normally lower my expectations because last year I was the opposite. I hyped the hell out of the New York Times, and when it came out and I read the article, I was like, no, really, where's the real article? This is not the real article. So, yeah, and like I said, a couple of months ago, I was told the plan was not even to have a public report. There were certain people that not want it to come out. I don't want to say who those people were, but I was like, really? And it was a really good source. But then they said, you know what? That was inaccurate information. But some people are going to say what we saw was really nothing, substantive.
Yeah, and I'm going to share, because I've shared with you privately, and I've shared with Omega too, that I'm aware that Homeland Security had to give up their goods. So I'm bummed that it was not included, but I understand obviously for future reporting that is a possibility. So we're going to have, if anybody's going to collect a lot of data, it would be them, in my opinion.
Right, and then it was another one that Lou had mentioned, customs border control, which I didn't really. I'm like, really border? But then I'm thinking Aguadilla because.
Well, they fall under DHS, so yeah. I mean, they fall right
good
in
point.
line.
Good point. Are you there, Omega? You there now?
Yep, I'm here.
What do you think?
So at first when I was reading it, I felt like it was, I hate that word, but the Nothing Burger. But now I see it as an attempted Nothing Burger, but there's definitely some nuggets that are in there. I mean, I think the thing that popped out to me first and foremost was on the other category. When it goes into the second description, the more detailed description of the other category, it says that they put things in there that they may need advances in science to understand, which seems very different from what they characterized it as in the beginning as a catch-all bin. If it's a catch-all bin, it seems like everything belongs in the catch-all bin right now because they only have one thing that they were able to identify with high confidence, and it was a deflated balloon. So it seems like from that perspective, they've left everything on the table. But that other category seems really interesting, especially the bit about needing advances in science to understand. That's huge. And then also the other thing that really stuck out to me was saying that they had no data to support, and I know that you pointed this out as well as you were reading, they had no data at this point to support that any of this technology was adversarial. So that's really interesting. And obviously getting the FAA involved is huge, and that's something we've been clamoring for. Finding out about the Air Force pilot program is great. Yeah, so I'm excited by this. I think it's just a first step, and I think that there's lots more to come. It seems like.
It's funny because I am usually I will my first response is always like tempered, but then as time goes on, sometimes I'll get, like, I was mad at the New York Times report, but then as time went on, I'm like, there's some really good stuff in here. And what you just said, yeah, and I just read it. They basically said there's no data. This is foreign adversarial. And there are people that will say that's because they don't know about advanced drones. Yeah, our government, the most advanced military in the world doesn't know all the advanced technology is out there. They need to ask Tyler Rogaway so they can be educated about it. It's like, so that was a great, a great part. And I just added in a couple more people. Jump in, guys. You guys are unmuted as of now. I don't know why I can't. I think you have to unmute your own mics. Sorry. Yeah, you guys are unmuted now. Omega is muted back right now.
Just tuning in to hear what you're saying.
Yeah, feel free to. What do you think? Did you get to see that? Did you get to read it, or did you get to hear what I had to? I read it
Yeah,
all.
I was walking the dog when I was reading it, but yeah, it seemed like it was an obligatory thing that they had to publish without really giving any real information. That nothing new.
Nothing new except it is a good, as Omega brought up. They said they had no data that it was foreign adversarial, and I did not expect that. I did not expect that. I thought they would say we suspect some of this may be foreign adversarial, and then they also said they couldn't. They haven't totally ruled out that some of this is our technology, but none of the 100 and whatever it was, incidents. They don't feel that any of those are. There's no data to connect it to our technology. So there's some good things in there, and the Air Force report too. The Air Force report, their pilot program that started in late 2020, is something I had none of us knew. As far as I know, I've never heard that. I knew behind the scenes Air Force guys were talking, but I did
It
not
was
know.
it was good to see them acknowledge that there was multiple forms of data and eyewitness data correlating to some of the reports. So I think that was important for them to say, because folks like that television science guy has been coming out and saying that kind of correlation didn't seem to exist, and this report is saying that it does exist.
Which science guy? Do you remember who you're talking to?
He was just on Bill Maher a week ago. I can't remember his name. It's Tyson.
Oh, Tyson. Of course, his name is gonna escape me.
Last name is Tyson.
Neil deGrasse Tyson. Yeah, yeah. What do you think, Pegasus?
Well, Joe, excuse me. Certainly interesting development. When you agree,
How are you?
we're good.
Yeah, good to
Knowing
see
our
you.
background, I can with a great deal of confidence say that we're actually looking at two separate things here. One is
Yeah,
the ultra-terrestrial aspect. The second is the extraterrestrial aspect. Now they can bury it underneath its alien reproduction vehicle stuff, but us personally, we have a completely different opinion about what's going on out there. And
Do you mind? Do you mind if I tell people who you are?
No,
Who they're listening to? So
be
this
my-
is Mike. This is Michael. So I haven't heard from Michael in a while, and I kind of owed you texts or a phone call, but I haven't heard from him in a while. This is Michael and Cindy, and Michael was on Twitter for a while. A lot of you guys know him, and really one of the most interesting people I've ever encountered. Basically, interesting background. Oh yeah.
Thank you for that, Joe. We caught a lot of heat here a while back, and we decided to step away for a while. Cindy and I are heading to Long Island tomorrow, by the way. We're going to pay a visit to some old friends and take a walk down memory lane, if you will, and maybe look back and reassess our position with regard to speaking out more vocally about some of the things that we've experienced. So Cindy pointed it out. I want to point it out. This report is just the beginning. There is a ton of stuff in the pipeline, and it all has to start somewhere. And this is as good a place as any. I take my hat off to guys like Luis Elizondo, TTSA, who kind of got the ball rolling. A few mishaps along the way, but the dimensions of the dialogue are changing in a good way. They need to. From a human standpoint, our experience has taught us that this planet is very important to some of the agencies that are involved. And I'm not talking human agencies. And it's always been our contention, Cindy and my contention, that disclosure, as we understand the term, is out of human hands. Now, we may be able to guide it, but we are not going to be the authors of it. And my history, and you know what happened to us.
Yeah, and I really hopefully I get people to hear your history now that now I feel more comfortable doing live shows, which I was afraid I was chicken shit to do in the past, and I delayed so many times. We definitely want to hear your story in the future.
Cindy and I are not public speakers, but we
Yeah.
do have backgrounds that I think can add to the conversation. We've had experiences that I think, first off, that they are authentic. I think that they'll have some value, if nothing else, than to add to the dialogue. And we're concerned about our identities, about being exposed, because we've lived very human lives, and we've done some sketchy shit in our world. So there's a element of risk involved. We like our anonymity. We like people not knowing where we live, although there's a handful of people out there who do. And we've discussed some of these elements before, and Cindy and I have both expressed our concerns about them. But I think this report really is, it's a lot bigger than you can call it a nothing burger. I'm not sure what a nothing burger is. It's probably a roll with no hamburger in it.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you, we live in exciting times, and this, like I said, is just the beginning. Wait till you see what Luis Elizondo has to say. And I want you to know this too, that there are people in the background waiting to stand up and step forward at the right time. And
just let people know who are some of the friends that you have.
Well, I have a good friend. We live in a community where there's a lot of retired military, a lot of active duty federal law enforcement, intelligence agencies, and one guy, Strategic Air Command, another guy, retired Army Ranger. My background,
right?
Military service, Army and Marines, and
what's the word from some of these folks?
Well, first off, it's not a phenomena as much as it is a reality. We are being visited by both extraterrestrial and ultra-terrestrial agencies, intelligences, and some of them have a vested interest in the survival of this planet. And right now, we're doing a really crappy job of taking care of it. I think everybody gets that, particularly you in Vegas. I mean, how hot is it today out there?
Yeah, today actually we've had a reprieve, but yeah, I was going to say I think you've said before that they really do care about the planet. As far as us, maybe not so much.
Yeah, well, the 5 paradigms that we're addressing. The first one: greed is good, hunger is acceptable, war is normal, peace is impossible, and one life matters less than another. And the intelligences that we're familiar with don't see things quite that way. The gain of material wealth isn't the driving force in their culture. Now, I can speak with some authority on this because of my personal experiences, but we've got other people who have joined our effort, if you will, who have other personal experiences that kind of make mine look like a day at Coney Island. So I hate to say be patient, but there's an element of time that needs to, these actions have to take place in some sort of, in time. They have to take place. This is a great opening gambit right here. If you look at it as a chess game, think of this as the beginning of it. There's a middle, and there will be an end. Most chess games last about 30 moves, 32 moves. And this is the opening. This is the opening gambit. That's my gut feeling on it.
It's a great way to look at it. It's a great way to look at it, and I thank you for calling in. And for folks who don't know, Michael was Look Up on Twitter. I know a lot of people are like, "Where is he? We miss him." So I did not expect to see you today, but I'm grateful you called in.
We're just finished packing. Like I say, we're heading out for Long Island at daybreak, and we've got some business to take care of on the way and while we're down there. And a side trip to Camp Hero in Montauk. We're going to meet with some people that have experiences there, and we're going to have a good time. And when we get back, Joe, I just want you to know, I'm going to let someone else speak, but when we get back, you and I are going to reconnect.
Definitely. So glad you contacted me.
They're rearranging themselves in interesting ways for us, and we'd like to share some of that with you.
Yeah, I would really welcome it.
And by the way, the priest is now in New Hampshire, Nashua, New Hampshire. I just wanted to share that with you.
And people, by the way, his story involves a priest and a healing. It's an amazing story, and I had time to speak with the priest, and it's a real story, and people are going to be blown away when they finally
Yeah.
get to hear what happens.
And I'm going to leave you with this. We've been here 7 years now. We retreated back here right after Cindy's mom died, and there's something magical about the 7 year point. Cindy and I, we live our lives by 5 year plans, but I have to say this, that we still argue, and I just spoke to the priest recently. We still argue about what the nature of that experience was. Was it extraterrestrial in nature, origin, or was it ultra-terrestrial in origin? It was something. We just don't know what. And we don't
Yeah,
know
that's what
why.
I love about you. You did not put it in a definitive category of, I know what happened to me.
I can't do it, and this is going to be part of the discussion that is about to open. That there will be people who assert that we're dealing with demonic forces or angelic forces, extraterrestrial, interdimensional, ultra-terrestrial. It's going to be an interesting conversation, to be sure. And like I said, I think Cindy and my experience can add to the conversation in a positive way. And this is where we need to stick our neck out. We're not really comfortable doing it because we live really comfortably now. And we have a lot to lose. And some of the crap that we had to deal with. So
I do.
I'm gonna let someone else take the someone grab the microphone away from me. And
yeah, Michael.
I just wanted to address as a casual observer. I'm from South Korea. I'm studying engineering at university in California right now, and I'm actually a very recent interest to UFO topic through George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell recently. I'm actually surprised by kind of negative opinions in the UFO communities about this new UFO report, because to me it seems absolutely insane that United States government, like the DIA, the Defense Intelligence Agency, is basically saying, yeah, we have these things, like they're flying around, we detected them, we don't know what the fuck they're doing, and they're just out there, and just they're real, and then they're telling the public about it, and that's just surprising to me, especially to a person who studies engineering, especially to hear those like instantaneous acceleration. That's just kind of crazy, and it would help us a lot in scientific community.
It's for me, it's like, and I need people like you and Michael. And I wasn't disappointed, but I didn't see anything that stood out in that report that made me say, "Oh my God!" But yeah, this is amazing. I'm spoiled. I'm spoiled over the last 3.5 years. And I got back into this. I was in this in the early '90s. Michael was into this before that. So yeah, looking at it, did I ever think we would get to this point? Early on, I did. But as the years went on, I was like, we're never going to make progress. And then 2017 happened with the New York Times, and now we're here. And I do know, like I said, I know zero doubt that Rubio and the Senate Intelligence Committee were told that ONI and UAP Task Force believe some of these are off-world vehicles. Whatever reason why they're not telling us that yet, eventually I think that information will come out. But yeah, as Michael said, and as Lou said, it's the beginning of the beginning. So yeah, I like having the positive attitude. Get me more excited. By the end of the day, I'll be happy again.
Well, I just want to throw this out there. There's enormous social, cultural, and religious ramifications related to, again, the word disclosure. It's like the pandemic. It's going to affect the whole world. Okay, once this genie is out of the bottle, there's no putting it back in, and it's really going to be a testament to what we as a species want for our futures, for our grandkids. Because quite honestly, Cindy has a degree in animal science, and part of my career, I worked for the Federal Emergency Management Agency, and I've had we both had some unpleasant experiences with regard to what our potential futures are. And if they paint extraterrestrials or ultra-terrestrials as enemies out the gate, we're gonna have a lot of problems. You got to shoot them aliens. Let's shoot a few down, see if they're friendly, kind of thing. And If you sit back for 5 minutes and you think about how the world could change in a good way, we're divided by color, by race, by age, by gender, by culture. We're a divided species, and what can divide us can also unite us. And then what can unite us, like air, clean water, clean food, can also divide us. So there's a lot of considerations to think about when you read that report, especially when you think of it as being the opening. Here we go. Let's start the dialogue. More and more people are ready to jump in once certain points are reached. And I don't know where all of them are. I only know where mine are. And we'll be approaching that when we get back from Long Island.
Yeah, well, enjoy the trip. Yeah, great to see you. It was such a nice surprise.
We're excited to go. And
have a great time and say hello to Cindy for me.
Cindy's in the background. She's listening.
Hi, Cindy.
She's in the background. Like I said, you got people standing shoulder to shoulder, waiting for enough momentum, enough where they can't get us all, kind of thing. They can't pick us all off at one time. And there are people that know they care about their futures, they care about their grandchildren's futures, and they're willing to risk a lot, if not everything, to make this a reality, to bring it to fruition. So it's going to be an interesting time. I know that. And I'm just going to say one last thing that when we go back to Montauk, we say a prayer. We pray for peace. That's really the only thing that is going to help us change the world the way it is right now is peace. That's the only thing. And a lot of people don't want to give up their guns. A lot of people don't want to give up the money they make from selling war. And it's time to change. It's time for us. Unless we as a species evolve, we're in serious trouble in the future. And I'm not being a doomsayer. I've never been.
No,
it's not an end of the world kind of guy. I'm a where's the new one begin? To say that some of the things in the old world need to pass away before those doors open, and that's all up to us. And you're part of that conversation, Joe. You're an important part of it. And maybe that's our problem. Cindy and my problem is we don't. We're selfish because we want to keep what we have.
I get it.
You follow me? So I'll let you go.
Yeah, thank you again.
Thank you for listening. And like I said, this is just the beginning.
Thanks again. Great to see you, Michael. And yeah, definitely connect when you get back. Enjoy Long Island.
I will.
All right. See ya.
Hey, Joe, can I say something?
Yes, please.
Hi, my name's Paul.
Hey, Paul, thanks for calling in.
Yeah, listen, unfortunately that Mike's jumping off. So when you talk to me and thank him for his service, he's great, vet and everything like that. So I didn't get a chance to tell him, but to his point, I am one of those people that he was talking about, like that, the tide's turning, so to speak. I'm not, Joe, you've been around on this for a while, right? And I actually knew about you a long time ago. But it wasn't until To the Stars and all that stuff started happening to where I'm like, wow, this is truly a potential, reality. So I've been a cautious skeptic up until recently. I work in drug development in a field called competitive intelligence. And so I have something to kind of say that may be interesting to get you excited. I just finished kind of going through the report, all 9 horrible pages of it, only 9 pages, right? Pretty disappointing.
Better than 4, but 9 pages.
Yeah, but this is what we see in what I do. Companies will put out a press release about a clinical trial failing, and there's a way of saying things without saying it overtly, and I feel like that's what this report definitely does. Like they said, there is real sensor data, and that these things are real objects. That is a huge win. So Joe, for you, it's probably very disappointing. You've been on this for 30 years. For me, it's 3 years only or so. And to me, it's validation. And to me, it's absolutely confirmed that, something's real, right? It's not an admission that it's, off-world per se, like you said, which I now think it is. But I'll say this for my Christian family, okay, self-included, my brother, me, my sister, my parents, not yet, but the three of us definitely think there's like a high degree of probability that this is off world, etc. So what that means, we still don't know. But to us, like, it's been a huge sea change. I think, Joe, your time in the area, you get desensitized, I think, in patience and things like that.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm disappointed by the report. Simultaneously, through omission, it's confirmation. So that's all. I'll stop talking. Thanks.
No, it's great. I mean, the more people, the better. And I agree. I mean, yeah, I've been at it. It's like, here's an analogy. When I lived at the beach, the first time we would go to the beach, you come over the hill and it's like, oh my God, look, it's so beautiful. And then you're there for 3 years and it's like, it loses some of its luster. You get spoiled. And that's kind of how I am now. I remember when we had, I don't remember, somebody came out with a comment and I had something negative to say. And I was like, and then I thought about it. I'm like, I'm so spoiled. I mean, to have 3.5 years ago, to have any of this. And now we have former presidents and all the folks who have spoken out. You have Rubio, who has gone out of his way to talk about that when asked. He hasn't shied. And I am frustrated that Rubio was told that they think these are off world. But like Michael said, once they go there, if Rubio if he were to say, we think some of these are off world, I mean, everything changes right away. So it's such a big deal. So yeah, it's progress, and by the end of the day, I'll read the report again and I'll be like, you know what? Yeah, there's some really important stuff in that report. So yeah, anybody else, feel free to jump in. You guys are all unmuted. I haven't muted anybody. Thank you for your call, Paul.
Yeah, thanks.
Hey, just chiming in here. My Austin here in Buffalo. My biggest problem is people like, I have a brother-in-law who's an engineer, smart guy, great guy, and people like Neil deGrasse Tyson that are completely dismissive of this being off-world kind of situation because all they do is think about the physics and the logistics involved with our present-day knowledge of science and physics, not factoring in that possibly an advanced species or race or society, perhaps thousands of years ahead of us, have figured out some different methods of travel or are sending robotic drones here and or different types of technology to monitor what's going on in other galaxies. So that's one of the things. Not getting enough information out of this new disclosure, it almost adds fuel to their argument.
I actually completely agree with your argument that a lot of scientists are ignorant on this topic, because I understand, because I'm an engineer. I live among scientists. They're all college students, the faculty members. They don't want to say it's outer world because there's no concrete physical evidence. Scientists are very hard to convince. Like they're not even fully convinced that like the evolution is actually a thing. I mean, they are pretty convinced, but they're not 1000% sure. You know what I mean? It's science is always like it needs more data. That's why I hate about this government approach, because I want to study it. I want to look at the data. I want to see what it actually did, but everything's not available. Everything's just gone. Everything's only available to select people, and if they speak about it, it's NDA. You go to jail, you get trouble, and you're not able to access it anymore. And that's just cruel to humanity, in my opinion, because I mean, as a scientist, if you have a thing that could go inside of water, go to outer space, we could literally change everything about logistic, how to feed people, how to move around food, everything. Like, we can learn from them.
100%. My idea, and I know Lou has spoken about it before, is get the top scientists like deGrasse Tyson, and get them briefed. Get them briefed on the really good stuff. Even if it's
convince them.
Yeah, I mean, because I understand the skepticism, because I've heard Lou talk about everything and Mellon, but I have not seen it with my own eyes. I have not seen any member of Congress. I mean, we have heard a couple of people, like I think it was Heinrich out of New Mexico, who said, he doesn't think that these are ours. But I would like to hear what they're seeing. And out of the report, the incidents they looked at, there was a very small percentage that were making instantaneous acceleration. We just need one of those videos and one radar to go along with it, just to open up more minds of some of the sciences. But it's a first step, but we need to get those people briefed, even if it's like 3 or 4 of them.
So Joe, real quick, my brother's a pilot, and I actually have an interesting photo I'd like to share with you at some point, because he actually sent it to some website too. But he's at 47,000 feet, and he had some like interesting pictures of what seems to be potentially orbs. But anyways, what I want to say real quick is with Rubio, you know, the fact, you know, he brought up Heinrich too, which is interesting because that's my state. I'm in New Mexico. And it just, to me, the fact that Lou Elizondo kind of characterized it on something last week, actually, that somber comment, Joe, you saw some of the discussion around that, like, you know, how would the world react, right? I've been pondering that question myself all week, honestly, with my girlfriend. And it's interesting. The only conclusion we can come up with is like the reason there's this resistance to disclose is it changes the whole idea of about what our deities are, maybe. That to me is the only thing of like our origin, right? That to me seems like the main thing that would cause us to be somber. And that, therefore, if that's the case, right, the Christian, whatever, not just Christian, Muslim, whatever, in Congress, that would disrupt completely everything of how like power and like morals and, you know, all of our ethos and stuff are like constructed, you know, as a society. So to me, that's why I've been pondering all week. And that to me is the number one reason why the resistance to full disclosure. That's the only rationale I could come up with. I'm curious what everyone else has to say, because I've been thinking about that all week.
Yeah, I mean, I've always wondered, you know, if it was just extraterrestrials visiting here, would that be enough for them to think, you know, we can't let that information out? You know, what made Jimmy Carter cry when he was told whatever he was told? What made, you know, John Harrington, went on to be I think he was the head of Department of Energy, and Bryce Zabel tells that story, and I'm going to write a blog about it soon. You know, he said he cried himself to sleep 8 weeks it was 6 weeks in an underground bunker being briefed. What makes somebody cry themselves to sleep saying, you know, this is the world my young daughters get to grow up in. You know, what is the real story? And Lou said somber, and that could be interpreted so many different ways. I mean, people, there are going to be some people, even if it's just extraterrestrials here, that's going to be a huge deal. It's going to, you know, devastate some of their beliefs. Some people will be able to handle it. So yeah, I don't know what the story is. So if it's something more than just an ET, if it's something interdimensional and they're here all the time, as George Napa said, you know, they're watching us all the time and we just can't see them. You know, was that something they would never let out because people would just be, you know, I don't know how people would handle some of the different storylines that we've discussed.
It's true. And after COVID, I have less faith in like society to handle things.
Yeah, that's a great point.
You know, and I think that validates honestly the government's position, maybe, because that just was kind of a crazy year and people acted really like immature. Like they just didn't really know how to handle the situation, which I was surprised how poorly, like we as a society, as a world, kind of handled that whole situation. So,
I mean, it kind of shows that the people in government are just humans, right? I mean, like Lou said in many interviews, he had resistance in the Department of Defense because some high-ranking officials thought they were literal demons, like demons, I'm not really subscribed to that point, but even if it is a demon, like humans are just very ignorant in a way, and then scared of changes, scared of new ideas. Like back in the days, we were scared to say Earth wasn't in the center of the universe. I mean, I think the resistance to new idea also applies to the UFO topic, especially in terms of theology and our ideas about where we come from.
And that idea of, you know, this is demonic, this is something you shouldn't study, goes all the way back to the remote viewing program. It does, and the same people are still in the government. And Lou, in one of his interviews, in the interview with Dolan, he's like, he got really animated. He's like, why are those people still there? Why haven't they gotten fired? It's like, you know, they're keeping us from studying this. And I'm open to everything. Maybe some of this is acting like a demon, whatever. But we need to study it and figure it out. And somebody said, wouldn't Christians want to know if it's demonic so we can fight it? It's like, that we're powerful, So yeah, it's a great point. And
So one intriguing thing about the report that I think, so this is the next step for me, I think. And I operate in like biotech and pharma, so we're always thinking about catalysts and next milestones. To me, the report said additional investment needed to be able to adequately test and assess and analyze these phenomena. And so to me, the next step is, will they get funding for this? So that's like the next question, I think, for the community, is to find that out if they're going to fund it. Because if that's the case, I think then this is a real positive, and there's going to be much more to come. Will we be briefed on it as the public? I have no idea, but guys like Lou and others, and Rubio, Heinrich, etc. I think there's significant momentum. Like I'm an outsider, Joe. You're like the insider of the community. I don't consider myself part of it, really, right? I watch and listen, and I am looking for the evidence too. And I see substantial momentum that's like unstoppable at this point. It probably will take a decade. It's enough time for all the old whatever you want to call them, that the people who are so entrenched in DOD, etc., die, retire, etc. It could be a whole generation before it's done, but to me, it's this is happening. It's just going to be a matter of time, and I think we just, like, as a UFO community, would have to keep expectations real. Patience is key. Delayed gratification, but it's undeniable to me at this point. So.
Yo,
yes,
you know what?
Madeira.
First of all, yo, what's up? Hello. I gotta say something, and I gotta say it straight. 9 pages. Am I right? 9 pages? Is
Yeah,
that
it's
all
not
they
really. It's not
can-
really 9 pages.
Two pages are appendix.
Yeah, so it's more like 7.
Honestly, like this guy said, like, Joe, you are the insider. You are the UFO Joe.
I'm not the
we know-
insider.
We know there are other programs that are studying the UFO. More funding? First of all, why are you like totally omitting or not mentioning? What about all these other programs in the U.S. government? Why the report isn't saying anything about that? Why the report isn't saying like totally pertinent? There's no mention of the classified, I guess, Eric Davis briefings about off-board vehicles. There's nothing about that. Like, honestly, I know some people don't want to go there, but like, it's 2021. Why there's no mention of the report of the historical link between non-human forms, abductions, and UAPs, UFOs, when this same report also mentions analyzing historical data. The report for me reads totally contradictory. It reads totally schizophrenic. I totally disappointed. Honestly, I was expecting a historical day. I think it's already too late for us to wake up to the reality that many of us, like you, Joe, know is going on in this world, which is like there's a lot of non-human presences living among us, and denying it is just kind of foolish.
Well, I didn't expect them to talk about a crash retrieval program. I did not expect that. But I was hopeful that they would, when your committee is briefed by the people who are collecting the information and they're telling you they believe some of these are off world, I was hopeful that might be in the report, but I figured that it would not be, because they don't think people are ready for it. We're ready for it. For us, even the most intense, scary situations, to us, most of us is interesting, but for the world, but I don't know if somebody like Rubio knows. You hear theories that there's a group here that's in favor of us. You hear there's a group here that doesn't have our best interest at heart. Does Rubio know any of that? I mean, do we have data on that from those programs, those special access programs that have existed for a long time?
You do have. You're a normal citizen, and you have all this data, even if it's conflicting, even if it's contradictory. By yourself, you generated a database, and not mentioning any of this is just kind of weird, honestly, because also the report goes to say that this is not any adversarial technology. like, and then it generates these other compartments, but this other compartment, it gets nullified immediately, saying that there's not enough scientific advancement to reach a conclusion. What does that mean?
You
You
know what
have a
it's
pilot coming face to face with an object in the middle of the ocean, multiple sensors, and saying like, you don't know what is it? Kind of weird.
it doesn't yeah it is important though that they're basically saying they have no data for foreign adversarial and they're basically telling you that none of these reports were our tech. So it's like it leaves one possibility that it's something anomalous, and hopefully the media focuses on that.
I mean, it's critical to understand in the report they did not rule out the quote unquote the other explanation.
Right.
It's kind of very, very funny how they put it. They wanted to ignore it, put it away. They want to put everything else in front, the area phenomena, ice crystals, whatever. But they knew they could not exclude the other option because we literally don't know what it is. And I think it's important to understand that we're dealing with government here. I mean, back in Roswell, when I was researching into this just a little bit, United States had reports about Roswell incidents and other incidents too, and it was very similar to this. Oh, it might be this, but we don't know. We need to figure it out basically, and we just don't know what it is. And it's always like this. It's always like this obfuscation. Yeah, they might exist. They're probably here. We have data, but we're not going to show you the data. We're not going to show you what we reached this conclusion with. But just believe us. We're working on it basically. Stop working on it within the government. Release it to major institutions like Caltech, MIT, and other colleges, and then closely monitor it so it doesn't get to our adversaries if that's what they're worrying about. They cannot crack this open in the government. I mean, if we believe like Bob Lazar's story and other people's story about crash retrieval and reverse engineering, let's say that's real. I don't know that's real. I believe them, but I'm not 100% sure. But if that's real, we clearly can crack it. We've been working on it for 50 goddamn years with the best scientists that they can find. They can't crack it because it's a closed environment. Science can't happen in that way. Like, I can't make science on my own. I need the internet. I need other people talking with me. I need new ideas. You need other people to get new ideas. Ideas just doesn't come on your own, I think.
I don't.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I just wanted to say the outside government approach is just really needed.
And I agree. It's locked up in special access programs where the amount of people who have access to the data is so tiny because they're afraid of security concerns and our adversaries getting a hold of it. Now, I don't really want to throw cold water on some ideas and get even more depressing, but there are people that are on our side and they want a lot of this data out, but they do not think that we should just wheel out the craft and say, here you go, science, take a look at it. So remember, a lot of these people have been embedded in the military, in these military jobs and defense industry, and they have that mentality still that it's, let's exploit this technology for whatever means. It's disappointing, but that's the reality we live in. I mean, yeah, I would love for it to be where we're like, let's get together with Russia and China. And Lewis hinted at this. He's like, hopefully one day we can get there if we can come together. And that's why he was saying, maybe if people know the truth, we can come together like Reagan talked about, there's some outside threat. Even if it's not a threat, it's like maybe just the idea of a threat can get different countries coming together and say, listen, we're all humans. We need to deal with this. Let's come together. Stop fighting. It's a pipe dream, though. I mean, look at the world.
So, but what's going to happen when and if this intelligence, if they exist, decide to reveal themselves and the governments never and always were hiding. They never told us anything. What happens if, because, as you said, like there are many reports of like the triangles, the shape of the triangles. Are they on a scanning mission? Are they on a hunt for information? We don't know. That's just a theory, right? But what happens if one of these alien are not so good theories come to fruition and one day we gotta face the fact? Isn't this way of behaving, when I'm talking about the government, leading us to a mass shock?
No, I agree, and it's like it's going to be on them. They're taking a chance that the phenomenon is not going to show up in a mass with a mass sighting. They're taking the chances, because if that does happen, say we're at some major event, maybe the Super Bowl or some soccer event, all of a sudden 1,000 feet over the stadium, there it is. They're screwed because they didn't prepare the public for it. So I don't know whoever is here, whether ET or ultra-terrestrial, whoever is here, I don't know if there's a timeline for them to say, listen, we've given you enough chances. Now we're going to start showing ourselves.
Joe, I kind of want to push back on that a little bit. Go ahead.
Listen, Joe, I have like a Spanish-speaking podcast, and I want to tell you this sighting that some guy reported to me like 5-6 years ago. But there was like a massive 200 people in a football field saw like this pyramid-shaped object. But it's like you say, what if they have like an apparition and it's massive? Maybe this has already happened, but just not in the United States. You know what I'm saying? Like, what I'm trying to say by all my comments is put the truth is out there. I know that sounds cliche, but when are we going to accept what's actually happening?
That's what I'm saying. Like, what is the evidence? Like, I'm pretty sure you're aware of it, Joe, about these sightings in South America, like he was saying, about the crafts that large amount of people saw, like Phoenix lighting and other sightings, like mass sightings, like we were talking about, and literally craft show up, people see it, a lot of people see it around it. That literally happens, but still denies it, still goes away. And that impresses me because, like, we literally saw it. Thousands of people saw it. Thousands of people reported it. There are police report about it. People were scared about it, but it went away. But what's different now, I think, is the pressure from the bottom is so hard. And then the people like Lou Elizondo and Krista Mellon, people from inside who actually know, because we don't know how government actually works, right? Like, we don't know the interest group. We don't know the senators. We can't push we don't have the lobbyists, but they do. And I think they are doing that behind the scenes by pushing the lobbyists, pushing the senators to actually get down to it. And I think that's why we have this report, at least, saying that there could be other thing. Because back in the days, like Phoenix lighting, even when a literal craft showed up, they always dismiss, swamp gas, whatever, But now there's something there. There's something there.
Hey, Joe.
Just chiming in here. Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, wasn't this going to catalyze like more video release from Lou or Jeremy? I think Jeremy said specifically after the release, there's going to be more video coming out that's clear, like super clear, etc. So
I know Jeremy is not done. I don't know. I do not know exactly what he has, but we need, the slow release of whatever he has over a period of time, I think, is a smart thing, because even with sightings, people lose interest, the media loses interest, and we need to keep it going. So new sightings that are important to do it that way. One important thing that Rubio said when the report was released, he said we need to figure out if this is a threat. That basically tells you he doesn't think it's Russia or China, because if it was Russia or China, automatically it's a threat to them stealing our, whatever they're doing. They're getting information on our training. When we're doing training, they're soaking up all that data. So he's basically, without saying it, he's basically saying it's unknown. He's not saying it's. I don't expect him to say extraterrestrial, because I don't think any of us know if it's extraterrestrial. Maybe.
I mean, what even is extraterrestrial? That's the question. It's just definition, right?
I know. It's I always struggle to come up with a word to explore. Like, say something that's here. It's like, ultra terrestrial. Some John Keel came up with.
Like, is it an animal? Like, we could call it an animal, right? I mean, it's.
Yeah, it's like, it's difficult to actually define it. Something that's not part of this society is a definition that
That's non-human intelligence is the best way to call it. Just
say it again.
Non-human intelligence.
But what if it's us from the future? What if it's a type of human that That's why I'm always careful. I'm like. I start saying non-human.
What if it's not intelligent? Like, what if it's not intelligent at all? Like, what if it? Like, I kind of buy to the theory that it's non-intelligent life that's living around us that we just can't see because it's our our eyes can't see it. So it's like as anything that's just like, I would say just like off-world intelligence, non-world intelligence, whether that be us from the future, whether it be extraterrestrial, interdimensional, all those things. I think the easiest way to say is just like non-human intelligence or off-world intelligence.
And that's what they're using. That's what they're being told. This is all, some of these are off-world vehicles. So that's that's the UAP task force term.
But I just wanted to add one thing. What was everyone's expectations going into today? Because this actually like far exceeded my expectations.
Me too. Yeah, I was
What were your expectations, brother?
Like I honestly thought they were just going to try to explain everything as just foreign drones. That the other category that's on the report like blew expectations away.
The other, they included the other, yeah.
But not even just the fact that they said that. They said there's some things that require more scientific advancement. So it's because like we can't understand it yet, and like they're going to spend money to investigate that. I think that's like way more than I would have ever expected. I thought they were just going to just completely try to kind of not like shit on UFO Twitter, but just like really concentrate on
Project Blue Book style, like just
not even that, but similar to Project Blue Book, but even like more definitive, because like Project Blue Book kind of left it still open ended a little bit. Like I thought it was going to be like definitive, being like this is going to be all the UFO people are going to
like it's like this is China or Russia, and we need to
or none of the above. I was not expecting the other category at all.
Yeah, no, it confirmed. It met my expectations, which were low, by the way, so not like high expectations. But they confirmed that these are real. These are real solid objects. Like in one part of the report. That's important because one idea I thought of originally with the triangle footage from the ship, the USS Kidd, I think it was. In theory, there is technology out there. You could create a lot of spoofing visually, through sensors, etc. But the fact that they confirm it and they confirm that they didn't try to just push away that other category, and they acknowledge the stigmatism with UFO, right, and be reporting these things. So to me, it's the beginning. To me, it did meet the low expectations. It did not do real disclosure, but I didn't have that expectation like a lot of people did. So, and I don't think that like the government would really do that like suddenly, right? It's going to be a process, generational, like I said earlier. I think so. Sorry.
Well, one thing I thought the report did really, really well is it's like there's no way anyone in Congress can be like, no, we don't want to fund this anymore. Like they their points made it very, very clear that we need more funding. There's potential for 4 new UAP teams. They say at the bottom there. Like I think we're definitely going to get some. This is an amazing step forward. I think for the next 5-10 years are going to be really, really good for people.
I totally agree. Totally agree.
I think the people.
I'm cautiously optimistic about this because I was very enthusiastic in 2001 when Dr. Greer did the press club briefing, and all those people came out with, and these were very valid pilots and military people, and they were talking about this like this is going on. We need to address it, and not much really happened after that. So I'm hopeful that things are going to move forward, and serious people in government and the military are going to talk about this publicly with the media and keep the ball moving. But I also understand that 20 years have gone by since the press club briefing. And here we are looking at a 7-page document that's kind of like, maybe something's out there. Maybe it's...
I would say it's actually looking at kind of a disappointing part of the report. I would say it was extremely disappointing that they didn't give us any new pictures, footages, any new data, any new satellite data, sensor data, because all of the data that came out regarding the UAP stuff was not from the government. That's really important to realize. All the pictures, all the sensor data, all of it is from the journalists who did the work, and then who find whistleblowers, who find leakers. Government did not release that. People released that. The journalists released that after finding it on their own, and then government confirmed it. So the government is still unwilling to provide any data, literally any data, even the quote-unquote unclassified, the gimbal data that cuts off at the end, the unclassified tic-tac data that's not fully there. They have bigger data. They're never going to release any data unless they're required to. So people like you, Joe, and other Jeremy Corbell and other new people, people who's listening to this, we have to call our congressmen, pressure them, because they're the one with real power, and then they can actually force the military-industrial complex to release these documents and information. Because I don't think they want to. I don't think they're willing to do that.
And just to add what you're saying, people say, why is the government doing this now? The government is not doing this now. It all started when Luis Elizondo had a place to go. When he wanted to resign, he resigned, and him and Mellon went to work. And Mellon
2017.
and Mellon used his Capitol Hill connections and got Lou to brief some people, and they brought up Alex Dietrich and David Fravor, and that's why now it's those people who did the hard work, and they're continuing to do the hard work. And people say this is Condon 2.0, and then Lou jumps in and says, well, not really, because now we didn't have Alex Dietrich back then when Condon was put out. We didn't have David Fravor. We didn't have Jim Slate. We didn't have Chris Mellon. We didn't have myself. But then Austin brings up a great point. Well, we had all of those types of people back in 2001, 20 years ago. I remember watching it, trying to watch it on my crappy internet connection. The thing would not load up. I had to watch it later on. I'm like, oh my God, this is it. 2001, this is the breakthrough. And then it's like crash after a week of media coverage, which wasn't even that thorough. But now the media coverage is nonstop. So will it continue? I mean, that remains to be seen. So,
Joe, do you think this pushes out Lou Elizondo to run for Congress like he threatened, so to speak? I hope it does. But I think his expectations definitely were much higher. So
I agree. I really want to see what he has to say about this. I'm not sure. I want to see what he has to say. I mean, I don't really want him to run for Congress because I love having him, being able to interact with us whenever he wants to. But if that's what it takes to get done, and he's willing to do it and run for whatever state, I don't know if he would run from Wyoming where he is. If that's what it takes, then I'd obviously support whatever I could. I'd support his campaign 100%. I'm sure all of us would.
I think so. I think not just. I'll say this: a lot of people outside of the UFO community, and myself too, would, because it's just there's pilots, there's people like in government, not just in government, but there's really sophisticated people who are not part of this, in the historical context, who are now part of it and support it because the evidence is there, increasingly, and we want to get to the bottom of it. So I think the conditions are right for someone like him to kind of go out there and just cause some disruption within Congress,
Yeah, said he wasn't.
Well, hats off to you, Joe. I got to bounce.
Yeah, Austin, thank you so much for being part of this.
Peace.
Hey, Joe,
Peace,
I'm also leaving, but I just want to say thank you, man. This was a historic day, and we got here thanks to the effort of many people just like you, man. So let's keep praying for more disclosure, and may everyone have a nice evening. See you later.
Yeah, thank you. Say hello to everybody in Mexico for us.
All right, well.
Adios. Yeah. All right, I'm taking off too, Joe. Great. Keep up the good work. Follow you on Twitter. Appreciate the disruption you're doing too, and I'll catch you on Twitter. Okay.
That was Paul, right?
Yep, Paul. Yep.
And Paul, you're in New Mexico?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thanks for calling in.
All right.
Joe, I'm curious, what do you think of what's going to happen for the rest of the summer in terms of developments, whether that be through Corbell or NAP or through the USG as a whole?
Well,
or Lou, actually, with the international thing.
Yeah, I don't know about Lou. I know he's mentioned international, and Corbell has spoken about he has more. But something to look forward to at the end of July is Ross Coulthart's book, which I think a lot of people are underestimating. They saw his documentary, but the book is not the documentary in book form. The book is a lot more thorough. So there could be some surprises there. As far as now, where do we go as far as how the government's going to react to this, or how the Senate is going to react, if they're going to comment more thoroughly? I would like to see Rubio and some other people ask tough questions. First off, I'd like somebody to ask Senator Rubio. We've heard that you were told some of these are off-world vehicles. Is that accurate information? And unfortunately, he could say all of that's classified. But I honestly do not know where we go from here. I think it's going to supposedly. Lou, who was it? Oh, Danny Sheehan. There was a private event. Somebody sent me a video, and you guys saw this on Twitter. Lou Elizondo is booked for two more appearances on 60 Minutes. And 60 Minutes is why we're here right now. A big reason why the past month or so that everything has just skyrocketed. Because people see 60 Minutes and it's like, just like the New York Times, they say, well, now it's okay to cover this. And a lot of the people are covering it because they know it's clicks. A lot of the media, a lot of the online newspapers, I don't think they really have an interest in it. I mean, I don't know if you saw the New York Times article yesterday. Julian Barnes, I think his name is. It was horrible. I mean,
they literally have no journalism on this topic. It's you could Google better journalism than those people. It's kind of amazing.
There's not a lot. You have Leslie Kean, you have Ralph Blumenthal, you have George Knapp, you have Jeremy Corbell doing work, and you have Ross Coulthart. It's not a lot. You would think they would realize this is the story of of the millennium. So it's like there are what's the award? There are Pulitzer Prize awards awaiting for somebody to sink their teeth into this. And to see that article in the New York Times yesterday, it was so dismissive. It's like you get the great article from Leslie Kean and Blumenthal and Helene Cooper, and then you get something yesterday that was, and somebody privately told me, you're dead on. It's horrible. And I didn't want to get conspiratorial, but it looked like it was a hit piece. And what happens is it's not really a hit piece like, people bring up Project Mockingbird and the government's working through the media. It's more simple where these people have sources at the newspapers. They have sources within the defense industry, and they don't want to piss them off. And those folks are telling them, listen, there's nothing to Roswell. There's really nothing to this. And that's what they report. So I don't know, I
wanted to get your opinion about if you know anything about this, Jacques Vallée's material science stuff, because I'm interested in the scientific community a little bit more. And then I heard that Jacques Vallée has some materials that's going through peer review. Do you have any timeline on that? Any information about that, or just any kind of snippets?
Just through the grapevine on Twitter that Gary Nolan from Stanford and Jacques Vallée their paper has, I believe, been approved. I believe it made it through all the peer review and they're waiting publishing. And that's going to be a big deal too.
Oh, really? That's impressive. So you went through the
allegedly it went through. I know they were doing final
Okay.
touches a few months ago and making any changes that the peer folks were requesting. But then I heard that now we're just waiting. So that's a big deal.
Yeah, in my opinion, that's gonna be literally the catalyst, at least for scientists, because when you have a peer-reviewed study in journal Nature by scientists from Harvard that's peer-reviewed by 20 different material scientists that says you cannot make this material on Earth, and even if you did, it's near impossible. That's gonna change a lot of scientists' mind, because scientists, they're extremely arrogant. I'm just gonna say it. A lot of my friends, they're just arrogant. They're just, they believe in what they believe in, but they can definitely be convinced, especially through peer-reviewed study in Nature journal. They love that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I've wondered how much. I guess it depends on exactly. I don't know anything about the materials that they had analyzed, and what the conclusion's going to be. You know how scientists will be, like you just said. They'll find any way to dismiss the finding. That's why I was naive about it last year. I was hoping we'd somehow get a look at that alleged intact craft, because the difference between materials, which a peer-reviewed report or peer-reviewed paper in a respectable scientific journal is amazing. But one day, hopefully in our lifetimes, maybe your lifetime, maybe I won't be here for it, they actually say, this is it. This is one of the craft that we have. That is such an impact, the impact of something like that as opposed to a scientific report. And I'm not taking anything away from a scientific report, but I do believe we have a craft. That just changes everything. That goes from a lights in the sky and a craft that could be some sort of weather phenomenon to say, here it is. And by the way, we have bodies here, and I'm jumping the gun, but something down the road, that's kind of what we need. We talk about sightings, how, South America had sightings, and nothing against South America, but I think whatever it is, if it's a World Cup event, it's got to be something seen by masses. And Phoenix Lights was great, but it's nighttime. I want to see a daytime sighting of something huge, 2,000 feet in the air over the Super Bowl or over some event where people, maybe people are watching the Academy Awards, 1 billion people across the world, and all of a sudden above the theater, people say, oh my God, look at that, something like that. but they may not.
Something undisputable.
Something undisputable. But there may be some sort of non-interference, prime directive going on, speculation, which then that's not going to happen. It's going to be up to us, as a species to collectively get to the point where if there is somebody here, we can ask, all right, you guys, we accept it. Show yourselves,
I mean, to go into kind of theoretical land, I mean, that kind of tells me that they're extremely intelligent in a way, because based upon reports from George Knapp, and if we believe George Knapp's reporting, there were UAPs floating over nuclear bases and military bases, like brazing just right there. That means they're willing to show them to select group of people, right? I mean, they know we're watching them. They know they're showing themselves. So I guess they don't want to show themselves in a extremely massive way to everybody that would, I don't know, whatever they're thinking. They have reason to not show us massive, like you're saying, like in the Super Bowl event or whatever, because they probably could do that if they wanted to. Like if they exist, let's make an assumption they exist, they could do that, then they could, but they are doing it to the military bases. So why are they doing it to military bases and not to the general public? I mean, that's a real, just curious, man.
And then somebody said, well, they're just preparing the battlefield for when they attack us. They just want to make sure that we're not strong enough to overtake them. And, I don't say that seriously, but you can't take any option off the table since we don't know what we're dealing with. But Owner, am I saying it right?
Yeah, Joe, how are you?
Good. What do you think? First thoughts?
Well, we knew that there was no mentioning to ETs or aliens or ultra-terrestrial, extraterrestrial, super-terrestrial beings. But I think we need to know what's going to be in the classified annex. So that, as remember, like in Laughlin, Dennis Sheehan was pretty optimistic about the classified annex, that it's going to have the mentioning of maybe these UAPs from extraterrestrial or ET origins or out of this world. They might mention over there, but I mean, I just saw what I expected just became. However, the language is, of course, extremely, extremely careful. And okay, we don't know what they are, but no mentioning about whereabouts or what could be the origins of these UAPs. It's just saying that we just don't know that. That's it.
What did you expect?
I was expecting something like this, actually. I wasn't expecting any ET phenomenon in the report or out of the world phenomenon, or it's completely Russian or Chinese or something. I just got what I expected. This is the first report. I mean, let's see what's going to happen. But like, as a first start, it's not that bad.
By the end of the day, I will see it. I will go through it again and just pick out the parts that stuck out. There's some really interesting parts in that. But yeah, the annex, Rubio said, as everything else in Washington, it will leak, what was in the classified portion. So let's see what they got to see. I'm disappointed that we didn't have any specifics on any cases. I'm like, they could have.
I know they didn't even mention the Nimitz case, and
they could share more. They could share more information about Nimitz and Gimbal and Go Fast and whatever other without giving away sources and methods. It's written down.
Yeah, I mean it's literally already released, and they didn't even do that. And that tells me they're just not willing to release any data. I mean, the data's already released, and you're not even willing to provide a better resolution of it, because they definitely do have it. I mean. It's just disingenuous to me. This all this government disinformation, not even disinformation. They're just not telling us. We know they have it. A lot of people know they have it. That's what's so frustrating in UFO communities, right? Because a lot of people have actually seen it. They hear people about it. They know people who supposedly working something about it. And we just can't. Nobody just accepts it, and that just makes it extremely frustrating.
And not just lack of data. They could have put information in the report about Nimitz. It didn't have to be radar or video or FLIR. They could have just put they could have put specifics which they learned about what those craft were doing during that week-long event, but there was nothing. So
That's what I'm saying. Everything is mentioned in a very abstract way that we don't know what they are, and like we have some cases, Air Force intervened, and we have military counters, but we don't know what they are, and we need further research. That's what probably everything is so abstract. Like nothing is like pronounced in the report, and that's. But maybe Denny is going to make an announcement, or like let's see what's going to happen. I'm not expecting anything from Alessandro, but maybe Denny Sheehan might give us something.
I will tell you something that Danny saw, which I wanted to save for my blog, and you might have heard him say it. When I was talking with Sheehan after his lecture at UFO MegaCon last week, he was taking Q&A, and I don't know if it was Alan Steinfeld was there, and somehow Danny said, I've seen pictures from an F-18 50 feet off the wing of a Tic Tac. So they have that kind of stuff. They have that kind of data. Why they couldn't show us that picture? Because that doesn't give away sources and methods. Somebody took a picture with their iPhone of a Tic Tac 50 feet, and he's seen the picture. So I'm like, did you see that from Lou? He's like, no. I go, your own sources? He's like, yes. So yeah, and Danny's going to be on another panel tonight. So I don't know how. I'm very curious to see how he reacts, and I guess I'll have another interview, something to transcribe. My Sheehan transcription is like, it's like 28,000 words, and it's going to be a lot more after tonight because I'm really curious to hear what he has to say, because I don't think he's going to be happy with this.
Joe, but there's also like I think 70 something pages of this annex, so probably they are kind of busy to reading it too, and also like understanding it, making a summary, and creating a plan based on that also takes some time. By the way, are you going to attend to Grant Cameron's podcast
Tonight? You're talking about tonight?
at 7 p.m. Yeah.
So yeah, that's where I think
Nicole was tweeting about it. So.
Yeah, Sheen will be part of that. So yes, I will listen, and hopefully, if he says something really good, it's not too much, because I have to go through. I still have to finish his transcript. I don't think that Sheehan has access to the classified report. I think some of the defense reporters will be maybe shown it or told what's inside of it. Like the New York Times article was based on sources who had seen it, but the reporters, I don't think the reporters actually had seen it. They were told what was in it. It's funny because this kind of didn't match what their article said. The article said what was it when they were talking about our technology? They said the vast majority of these are not ours. But in this actual report, it basically says they found no evidence that it was ours, And also that was not in a New York Times article saying that they kind of ruled out foreign adversary. For me, that's the biggest takeaway. We can't say it enough. No data that it's foreign adversary.
Probably lack a single explanation. That's what.
Yeah, and for us, that means maybe some of them are reptilian, some of them are grays, but for them, it's like, well, maybe some of them are drones, maybe some of them are other. It's funny, different views on what.
I mean, at least declaring that it's not ours is also a step. It's not our drone, it's not our technology. It's a step.
And as much as we all get excited, and Lou has hammered it home for 3 years, he's like, it's gonna take a while. I mean, we all get excited. I've gotten excited. I've gone overboard. I said,
Dude, they denied that he was chairing the UAP. I mean, Harry Reid has to step in that he was the head of the program. Come on.
It's those people. It's a small group of people that have been doing it for a long time. They'll do anything they can to kill a program. I spoke to somebody on the inside, and they're like, those people will do anything to kill a budget. They're so desperate to keep us from studying it because of their religious beliefs. It's a big part of that. I'm sorry for people who are religious, but that's a big part of why we're not getting to see a lot of this stuff and why these programs die. Those people, I don't know how much power they had over the Senate Select Intelligence Committee, but as far as telling them, you cannot do this, I'm not sure exactly who those people are. I think Lou names... And I don't think every one of them it's based on religious grounds. But a big part of it is. And Lou has, he says in the Inspector General inquiry that they've made, he does name them.
Yeah.
I do want to know who those people are.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is the same tactic that we've seen over the years. Leak some information, create a disinformation campaign. The information is, the reality is there, but we don't know what to believe in. So even the data we have is correct. We're in between. Is it correct or not? Like, this is exactly what they're doing here right now too. And you're just staying in between. Okay. And you don't know what to believe, or they're just denying their own head of their UAP program chair. I mean, what can you expect?
I think the government is just extremely scared. I mean, especially with this new Cold War rising with China, and they because they knew they haven't been studying this legitimately for a while, so that now they're really scared that China or Russia might be ahead of them in this technology, right? I mean, because we know that's why Harry Reid started it in that program. Like, not that they have this technology, but they're trying to study it just like us. They're trying to study it, but they went farther in that study of UFO.
I think they knew that Russia and China, they're also going through these sightings, and like they knew that they were not Chinese. But like I understand in the 40s, like in 47, for example, during Truman's time, okay, keeping it secret just after Second World War, where like millions of people died. I understand that. I mean, they killed the Secretary of Defense for that.
Well, maybe. We don't know for sure.
You can see his scratch marks on the hospital window. Come on.
I know. Maybe they may have killed people. They may have committed violence. I mean, Lou has insinuated. Basically, Lou said during his Richard Dolan interview that his very close colleague encountered these people. And there's rumors over the years that they've been involved in in intimidation. He went as far as intimidation. So yeah, that may have gone on. And back then, it's never acceptable. Obviously. If Forrestal was murdered, it's never acceptable. I don't care what the secret is,
Just a last question before I leave. What can people like us do to help in the UFO community?
A lot of, contact your representatives is great, but I don't think we're large enough to make a difference yet. I mean, I've never said this because I know it's controversial, but the kind of energy we need is what happened on January 6th with the Trump rally. That kind of energy, not the kind of violence. I'm not talking about people breaking into the Capitol, but we need that kind of crowd, that kind of energy. We need people to be pissed off to the point where, like, we need this data. You need to give us that data. And I'm not sure how...
Passionate,
yeah, we need the passion. And it's only passion in our community. It hasn't expanded. There are people that are interested in this. They're like, this is interesting. Oh, that's interesting, but they're not passionate like us. Like, we're obsessed by this, and I don't know what it's going to take to get a certain critical number of people to get to that point where we make a difference with our representatives. I mean, we see them speaking out, but I'm not sure if our representatives are speaking out because they feel pressure from us or because they realize it's a good thing to talk about. It makes them look good right now in this climate. What else can you do? I mean, just share it with as many people as you can. I'll bring it up whenever I can. And I'll keep it very basic for people. And now I can refer to 60 Minutes. Before it was the New York Times. And those are two really big things that I didn't have in the past. I mean, I would still talk about it with strangers if I could. But we just have to get more people interested. And I think it's happening. It's going to take a while,
Also, we need more people like Dennis Sheehan who can speak with their language.
Yeah.
100%. Thanks for the insight, man. Have a nice rest of the stream.
You too. Care. Thank you. Yeah, we're going to end this soon. But Sheehan talks about one of the things, what I had never heard him talk about. He talks about they taught when he was with John Mack, they had an idea, and Sheehan said he came up with the idea. They said, listen, these beings, we don't really react well to them if it's during an abduction. So they wind up sedating us, and they put us where we can't move, and people panic. He goes, we need to teach these experiencers holotropic breathing, which was Stanislav Grof, something he came up with, to keep them calm. So when they do have the encounter, they don't react crazy. And he said one of the persons in the group did that, and she was taken to see her daughter. He's insinuating that it's a hybrid. So, Sheehan does talk about stuff that's controversial too. But he knows. He goes, you got to know your audience. if you're in front of somebody for the first time who's never heard about this, you're not going to bring up the possibility of hybrids. You're going to talk about
He's
60
also
minutes.
passionate about the subject too, and he knows the literature pretty well.
Oh, he's amazing. He's just the best thing. I think he's the best thing in ufology, and he's trying his best to unite Greer and Elizondo and the people who think this is a false flag. And during his interview, he goes through this long explanation of why he doesn't believe this is a false flag. He says there's no evidence for that. It makes no sense. If they want money, there's so many other avenues they could still use the exhaust before. And he goes, but I do understand that I'm trying to get ahead of the possibility that maybe in the future there might be a false flag. And that's where he says, so I understand that. Good on them for at least being prepared for the possibility. He's doing his best to try to mend fences with Elizondo and Greer. But it's hard when, Greer calls Elizondo he basically called him a liar. I don't know what the wording he used.
Elizondo called him a terrorist too.
Oh, really? Yeah. So it's like, I don't know if they'll ever come together.
I mean, Greer has to put himself on a leash. Like
I wish he would. Yeah, just look at it. Come on, you've done some great stuff.
He also put Denishian under the bus too, just for his own sake. That's not good. I mean, he's always talking about, we should always get rid of our egos for these beautiful ET beings who are visiting us and so on. First, start from yourself. Trim your giant ego.
I know. I agree. Maybe I don't know if it'll happen, but any thoughts? Any final thoughts, guys? Final thoughts today. Report.
So something exciting just happened, actually.
What happened?
The DoD now requires all members to report any UAP activity within 2 weeks of the sighting, and there's a new memorandum that just came out that's like that.
So who is it?
The I'll link it in the chat, but
oh yeah, I just saw it.
It's from
Jake Man. Yeah.
It's a memorandum from senior Pentagon leadership commanders of the Combatant Command's Defense Agency and DoD field activity directors, and it's basically from the UAP task force directing it to all forms of DoD to now send their sightings into the UAP task force.
Damn, that's good.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. I'll have to find that. Thank you for that.
No worries. But
final thoughts, guys.
I just send you the memorandums link on Twitter.
Thank you.
You can check it out. Final thoughts.
guys.
It's a long way to go. That's what I can say. But that's not a bad beginning. But let's see. We got to increase the pressure. That's what I can say.
I agree. And Hint Canada. Wait, I don't know your name.
Oh well, my name's Aaron, but I have like a UAP alias on Twitter, which is Canada Loves UAP.
Okay. What are your final thoughts, Aaron?
I as I said earlier, I'm super happy about today. Like, it blew my expectations out of the water. What I was expecting, in short, was that I think that the 2009 cases are like mostly foreign drones, and I thought they were just going to concentrate on just 2009 and kind of debunk 2009 and then blanket everything UAP as the 2009 cases. But this was like way better than I could have ever expected. So I'm super happy, and I can't wait to see what happens next.
Yeah, I'm glad to have your input and your insight. And everybody, Daniel, who's there, he's muted. If you want to say anything, here's your chance. Okay. Guys, thank you for being part of this.
Good to see you, Joe. Thanks.
Great start, historical day. Talk to you soon.
Take care. Bye.
Thanks everybody for listening. Thank you. It was 2 hours went by like really quick.